Hey everyone, this is Darren with SimNation. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are officially looking at Utah Utes, the second of our 3-0 to hero teams this season in the SNCFL. If you've been following along, you know we've got a work cut out for us with Utah in general. They sit in the Pac-12 South, which is where Stewart dominates with the number 3 UCLA. I also have to contend with a schedule that includes Cabra at Oregon State, Van at USC, and my old team, Arizona State. And then just for good measure, let's throw in number 24, West Virginia, led by V Gorilla. We're stepping right into a program that, if you remember, desperately needs a new direction. They have not won really more than 2 wins in any of the last 5 or 6 seasons. And the road to get to the playoffs is going to have to start right here and now, and it is going to be a very rocky road. The realistic expectation for this team is 6-6, maybe 7-5 on the top end, but we're going to push it and try to see if we can't get this team into the playoffs this year. Before we even look at our playbook, we need to know what kind of personnel we're working with. Team cohesion, of course, is a massive factor in Draft Day Sports 2026. It's going to work against me throughout this season. So we're going to try to set up these guys for success early. So let's dive into the roster and really start talking about what we have to work with. So let's start on the offensive side of the ball. I do think that we found our four-year quarterback almost immediately. Fontenot is the game-changing type of quarterback that I think I need for this program. If you look at him, he's 84 overall right out of high school, got 88 arm strength, 79 speed. He's an absolute dual threat weapon. The only problem, the depth behind him is practically non-existent. And like the previous team that we talked about with Hawaii, if he goes down, this team is going to struggle very badly. He does have some weapons around him, though. The backfield is loaded. Halstead is a legitimate game-changing threat with 93 speed. Pair him with freshman Cole, and you've got a game-changing dual backfield where we have a terrifying 1-2 punch. Outside of that, again, dealing with depth issues. And depth issues is going to be the theme of this entire video, for want of a better word. The wide receiving room is the exact same story. They're blazingly fast. Four of our top 5 receivers have 87 plus speed. We don't have that big overpowering 90 overall alpha receiver yet, so we're going to have to win with separation and speed. And to do that, we're going to be putting a lot of onus on Ramirez, on Coe, on Ivy, and on Tribbles. Now, the reality is when we talk about Ramirez, he comes with a lot of baggage. He does not have the hands to stand up. So he's probably going to be used in 5 wide receiver sets while I know I want to go long and I'm okay with him potentially dropping the ball. So when we look at our tight end group, it's a little bit more the same. We have some decent tight ends in this group. They can block, they can catch the ball out of the backfield. None of them are blazingly fast, but they're workable enough that we should be able to do what we need to do, though. The really big red flag is going to be in our offensive line. We have Schroeder and Weiss who should be able to start at guards, but there's no depth behind them, and both of the backups are really horrible options. We're going to see the same thing when we look at our tackles. We have no depth. Again, once we get past our 2 starters, we do have one person who can potentially come on the field and play in Peebles, but the reality is we're going to struggle there. And at center, again, really no depth. Hinkle is going to be a good passing down option, and then White's going to have to come in on running downs because we just don't have anything that we're going to be able to make work there. So the good news is that our skill positions, we're in good shape. The bad news is in our offensive line, we're in bad shape. Now, our special teams is nothing to write home about in any way, shape, or form, but we do have a good punter in Martz, who should be able to help us with field position throughout the year. We do have kickers who have boom legs, but they're not very accurate. So we're going to see how that plays out across the course of the season. Now, when we look at our defensive line, we do have a pretty good defensive line. We have some good options who are freshmen, who are strong, who should be able to hold up people on the line and make some of the plays, but none of them are exceedingly fast. None of them have a great first step. And generally, they're going to have to play as nose tackles throughout the season because we're not going to get much else. The defensive ends are good, if not great. And we should be able to get some pressure on the quarterbacks off of our defensive line. But again, depth here again plays into the picture. Once we get past our top 2 or 3 defensive linemen, well, I'm sorry, our edges, we're going to have some problems because we don't have that depth again. To carry through on the depth conversation, linebacker is probably the one place where we don't have a depth issue. We actually have some really good linebackers, and this was an area that already was pretty good to begin with when I took over the team. So I'm pretty excited about this area in general, and I should be able to use this to help me in a 3-4 set. Once I get past my 5th or 6th option, though, I'm going to start to struggle a little bit. I did take quite a few people off of the offense and move them over to defense because I need my defensive backfield to be really, really strong. And this was a problem that we had previously where they were all slow. I'm going up against Van, who's a rushing team, by the way, but also Arizona State, who likes to throw the ball, going up against UCLA, who's quite capable of throwing the ball. And then some of the other teams I'm going to play in the Pac-12 are teams that love to throw. So I got to have speed, and I've got it. This is probably one of the strongest groups I have once I get through training camp. And I'm going to be focusing a lot on their skill, by the way, to try to get that up. At strong safety, I've got Runyon, who is going to be good despite his one skill. He will bump pretty well. And then if he doesn't, I do have Witt, who also can back him up. At free safety, I don't have much depth here, but I do have guys who actually play the position. So that is definitely going to be something that's going to help me as I go through this. So with all this said, what am I going to do? How am I going to play this? How would I scheme this? On offense, the strategy I think is going to be simple. It's going to be spread the field, run the read option. With Fontenot's dual threat ability and a backfield full of absolute burners, I want to be able to get our athletes in this space, and that includes Fontenot. So you will see a lot of QB options happening in this game with Utah. We're going to rely heavily on the RPO to protect our young offensive line depth and let our playmakers do the work. We got to get that ball out fast because we're not going to have the time or the skill to be able to hold it. On defense, this is going to get interesting. I'm probably going to run a 4-3 base, scaling into a 4-2-5, or scaling into a nickel package. Why? Because we want our best players on the field, which means utilizing those elite, strong safeties to mask our weakness at free safety. Also, utilizing our cornerbacks to mask some of our weakness that we have elsewhere. In the middle, we're not going to get much push, unfortunately. So you may see me playing defensive ends in the middle because of the weakness of my defensive tackles. We have the corners to play aggressive man coverage, so we're going to bring that heat with our front 6 and force opposing quarterbacks to make quick decisions. My hope is I will be able to disrupt a lot of those teams and be able to pull out some wins. In summary, this roster has some glaring holes, but the speed we have is going to make this a really fun rebuild. I'd love to hear from you guys down in the comments, though. How aggressive should I be with the play calling for Fontenot? Should I go all in on his rushing ability and let him also throw the ball? Do we unleash him on designed runs and risk the injury, or do we protect him and use his legs strictly as a safety valve? Let me know in the comments what you think, though. If you're excited for this Zero to Hero turnaround, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe so you don't miss out on our first game of the season. I'll catch you guys in the next one. And as always, I'm very grateful for your support on this channel. Hope you have a great night. Thank you.